I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.
Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Thank you guys for tuning in. And today, I'm going to be continuing with YouTubers get sued for a lot of money. And this was made by Coffeezilla. With all that being said, if you would like to subscribe to him, I'll have all his information down below. And let's get into this video.
Influencers who promoted FTX are now being sued for over $1 billion in damages, and I want to talk about it. We're not only speaking to a lawyer, but even one of the people getting sued. Meet Kevin, Graham Stephan, Andre Jick, Minority Mindset, Brian Jung, Financial Education Jeremy, Tom Nash, and Bit Mindset people getting sued. Meet Kevin, Graham.
Sorry. Graham Stephan. I know a bit about this guy because he's done videos with Michael Reeves. He seems like a genuinely cool guy. Sorry, he gives some advice. He basically all that whatnot. If you were interested in him, should I have his information down below as well? I'll probably get his information too because I did stop to talk about him. So it's important. Sorry. I didn't know he promoted a crypto thing. Was it a slight mistake? Did he think it was going somewhere? And well, yikes! If he's getting potentially getting sued for it, that's not good.
Stephan, Andre Jick, Minority Mindset, Brian Jung, Financial Education Jeremy, Tom Nash, and BitBoy Crypto are all defendants in this lawsuit. But before we get into it, I have to do something I never thought I would do on this channel. I have to defend a certain person on that list, a guy I have been very critical of on this show. I'm talking about BitBoy Crypto. I know, I can't believe it either. What many people don't know is that he turned against them, and get this, months before the collapse, he started warning people about FTX.
We're going to be crossing out FTT and Solana. These are going to be going out of the portfolios. These coins are dead to me. Sam Bankman-Fried, you're dead to me. Brett Harrison, you are dead to me. FTX, you are dead to me. You are despicable, and I'm disgusted by you in every way, shape, or form. Everybody's going to be on that track.
Oh my gosh. He said that way back in September. He said he's disgusted by Sam Bankman-Fried. This is BitBoy Crypto, guys. He's the Jim Cramer of crypto, and yet somehow he made one of the greatest blind call-outs of all time. And it's so remarkable that I actually want to show you yet another clip of him doing this because I simply couldn't believe it when I saw it.
They're playing games with people's lives, and that's not right. Time to expose FTX and SBF what they really are.
What can I say? That video is a month before FTX collapsed. And to be clear, I am not claiming that BitBoy is some oracle. I think it was luck. But understand that he's one of the most widely ridiculed crypto influencers. Everyone has dumped on this guy for years for bad calls. But here we are watching him get FTX, the biggest con, more correct than even the most beloved financial influencers. So it just doesn't make sense for him to be in this lawsuit. And besides, you're not supposed to sue BitBoy Crypto anyways. He sues you when you make fun of him. All right, sorry, I'm trying to defend him here, but I'm not used to this strange turn of events where the villain has become the hero. But either way, with that out of the way, I want to talk about the rest of this lawsuit. Basically, the rest of these influencers are accused of promoting FTX and getting paid for it. It also accuses them of not conducting adequate, if any, due diligence. Allegedly, these influencers played a major role in the FTX disaster, who hyped the deceptive FTX platform for undisclosed payments. Now look, none of this is really surprising. We talked about influencers are accused where the villain has become. This is the story of the worst. This is the story of the worst.
Sorry about that. I'll be right back. Oh, you all now remember. Sorry, I'm back. I'm not back at the right spot, but I messed up something in it. I had to redo the yeah, great. Big White Crypto, I remember, because I watched the dude on It's My Right, the dude in the hat. Well, Atulzi, sorry, I didn't want to mess up his name. I remember he talked about basically this dude tried to sue him, so yeah, I know that much.
Make fun of him. All right, sorry, I'm trying to defend him here, but either the rest. Allegedly, these influencers played a major role in the FTX disaster, who hyped the deceptive FTX platform for undisclosed.
So they're claiming Stephan Graham was all in and hyping it. Jeez.
Payments. Now look, none of this is really surprising. We talked about this back in November, and it all feels inevitable. The whole reason FTX was so popular is because of the amount of money they dumped into these advertising campaigns. Everyone I know was offered one of these deals. Either way, it's pretty logical to see that without people willing to take the money and sell FTX, it just couldn't have hurt as many people. And already, we saw a similar class action lawsuit come out against arguably the biggest promoters, Tom Brady, Larry David, Kevin O'Leary. And so this just seems like the next logical...
Oh wow, Tom Brady's getting sued. Oh, okay, that's funny.
Step targeted at smaller promoters, albeit financial education influencers in particular. So, although these guys don't have as anything close to Tom Brady's popularity, the argument here is different. It's that people look to people like Graham Stephan and Meet Kevin in a different way than they looked at Tom Brady. If Tom Brady promotes some penny stock, you'll think nothing of it. But Meet Kevin, Graham Stephan, Andre Jick, Financial Jeremy, all they do is do finance all day long. They even have a podcast they called Millennial Money, which was sponsored by, you guessed it,
Wait. What? Wait. Oh my lord. Okay, so it was that bad. So how much do you guys guess they were paid to do this? Because if they were making podcasts, all that stuff, they must have felt hard for believing this would actually work. All I can say, because I don't watch them a lot, I guess even the best people who try to help you with your money and whatnot, they can make major mistakes too.
Podcast they called Millennial Money, which was sponsored by, you guessed it, FTX US, and is now deleted. And the point is, they position themselves as experts. And I think that's the real juice of this lawsuit, in contrast to, say, like the Tom Brady lawsuit. The only analogy I can think of is like if someone tried to sell you a pill that was going to help you lose weight, and the two people promoting it is Jack Black and Dr. Oz. Okay, let's say you take the pill and develop uncontrollable vomiting. Who would you actually be mad at? You know, you could say, well, Jack Black's more of a star, but ultimately, obviously, the answer would be Dr. Oz, because he's expected to know better and to do due diligence. And the reasonable assumption is that Jack Black couldn't look into it even if he tried, because he's not an expert. And so I think that component probably will make a massive difference. I'm certainly not saying everyone who promoted FTX who didn't know anything about finance should be let off the hook. I think it's a huge problem either way that non-experts can shill financial products. I'm just saying it's worse if they are experts. But to make my position even more explicit, I don't think influencers of any kind should be allowed to promote these investment products. I think there's a huge downside to it and very little upside. I think you oftentimes end up hurting people because it's impossible to give broad financial advice in a responsible manner to a massive audience you don't know. But on that note, you might say, well, hang on a minute, Stephen. I'm with you on not selling financial products, but they weren't selling that. They were selling FTX, right? Or FTX US. And this is where things get a little tricky because, yes, there's some truth to the fact that FTX US was a platform, But on that platform, they were also selling financial products. You see, you could buy what was called a yield-bearing account, or you could put your money in it. It's where they offered you 8% a year. And this wasn't just FTX, this was FTX US. And that's a problem because, well, this type of account is probably an unregistered security. To avoid going into too many details, let's just say several different accounts like this have been targeted by the SEC as being unregistered securities, and the FTX earn accounts would be no different. So this is where the lawsuit gets its claim that these influencers may not have just been promoting a scam, they may have been promoting an unregistered security. Now, to be fair to these influencers, these earn accounts were in a strange gray area. According to the website, the FTX app Earn is available only in permitted jurisdictions, which would appear to mean that the United States of America was not allowed to have these accounts. But in typical Sam Bankman-Fried fashion, what they said on their website wasn't actually true. You see, these accounts were actually available to US investors, as seen on a screenshot from their own app. Quote, FTX Earn rewards are available for US users on a promotional basis.
These guys are scummy. Like the FTX situation. The more that comes out about it, the more it seems like a dude who used basically his reputation that he built up with money and favors just crumbled because it was built up from nothing. He literally paid almost everybody to basically like him. That's what it looks like from an outsider's perspective. It's not good. It's like, what was legitimate about this whole project? So far, nothing. And they got away with it for so long.
And admittingly, this was confusing to a lot of people. A Redditor said, FTX Earn for US customers is incredible, but very poorly marketed. And then complains that it almost feels intentionally hidden, which should have been a red flag. And maybe it was, but it was there. And like it or not, if America...
Oh no, it's not intentionally hidden. It's just willfully misplaced.
American investors put money into this Earn account, we could earn 8% a year because of one of these influencers, they may have sold an unregistered security, which would be bad not just for the person who put their money there, but also bad for the influencer. I mean, look, it's all bad. It's just legal jujitsu to kind of get to the obvious. Ultimately, this story is about people getting hurt, promoters getting paid, and now they're getting sued for it, to which I say, good. Although, not everyone believes this particular legal strategy is going to hold water. I asked Legal Eagle, a well-known lawyer on YouTube, what he thought, and he was doubtful about its chances.
And basically, the entire case rests on a part of the Florida law that the plaintiffs claim connects the endorsers to FTX. I'm very skeptical of this. The section in question extends liability to any director, officer, partner, or agent for the seller if they personally participated or aided in the making of a sale. And if you're on YouTube or if you're a celebrity endorser, you're not a director of the company, you're not an officer, you're not a partner, and you're not an agent. You're not able to act on behalf of the company. You're just basically contracted to make a statement. For most of them, it relies on a bare allegation that they were, quote, paid to endorse FTX. And then there is a subsequent allegation where it's so wishy-washy. It says, quote, it is hard to imagine that anyone who has done business with FTX, including paid endorsers, would not have personally witnessed one or more of the deficiencies identified by Mr. Ray. He's the guy who's in charge of the receivership of FTX in bankruptcy. And all FTX endorsers have extensive business dealings beyond FTX and surely would be able to identify business practices that are unusually problematic. Now, as a legal matter, I don't think that that really changes anything. As a factual matter, it's just completely false that a celebrity endorser or a YouTuber would have any insight into the inner workings of FTX that the public does not have. That's just not the way it works. Though at the same time, I wouldn't want to be these YouTubers either who are going to have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to their lawyers to defend against what is quite possibly a meritless lawsuit. I don't expect this particular lawsuit to go anywhere, but I think it is going to be a pain in the sides of many of these YouTubers.
Wow.
Okay. That's good to know. So, most likely they won't really get sued, but it is going to basically take time and money to basically go away. They made a mistake, like I previously stated, and now they basically have to clean up their mess because they chose to endorse poorly.
So there's the official opinion from an expert. It'll probably cost the influencers a lot of money, but he's skeptical if it will hold up for the long run. Of course, we'll see how it plays out. But the last thing I wanted to do was not just ask a lawyer what they thought, but ask these influencers. Because, look, whether you think this particular lawsuit is relevant, it changes nothing about the ethics of this.
This is what I like about him. He basically gets the information, gets the facts, presents them, and he also brings in the people that were involved, affected, or directly in charge, and talks to people. So you actually have statements from the people who made the mistake or who were affected, and it's not just, oh, I'm going to believe one thing. You now obviously have a broader scope of what's going on.
Situation, and I wanted to hear it straight from them. And most of them refused to comment for understandable reasons, but Meet Kevin decided to respond, and here's what he said. You're being sued along with several others for the promotion of FTX. Do you think you should...
Stephan did? Of course, he said for obvious reasons, of course, it could affect them negatively in court. But I'm surprised.
Should be liable? What are your thoughts?
It's terrible. I feel so terrible for the people who lost money from FTX. I feel so just the entire YouTube finance community has really gotten hit basically with egg on the face, so to speak, because of the association with somebody who ended up being a terrible fraud, and it's miserable. The way I compare it is, I was a real estate broker for quite a while, still am a real estate broker, and oftentimes clients ask us for vendor recommendations. Hey, who's a good electrician? Who's a good plumber? And I've had this before where 98% of the time the electrician you recommend is great, and at one time something goes wrong, and that stuff happens. It turns into this situation where the person who's responsible is the person making the mistake. And I know it's terrible because it's like, hey, well, financial influencers, how come they didn't know? We didn't have access to financials at FTX. We had hired individual representatives like agencies who do this sort of stuff, and they tell us they do all the vetting for us. This is why we hire people to help us. And so we don't have a look into the systems of what's really going on behind the scenes. And I think that's the same thing that happened to people like, Shaq or Matt Damon or whoever else has been caught up in this. But I think the worst case scenario out of all of this is the individuals who don't have access to their deposits.
But do you think you should, specifically you or me, Graham or anybody else like who promoted it? I think the difference is between you and Tom Brady is people kind of expect you guys to know. Do you think you should be, do you think you should be giving recommendations if you can't do the proper due diligence because, as you said, you don't have access to these financials? And then B, do you think that given that you guys profited, I'm guessing somewhere in the realm of $1 million plus from these FTX things, do you think that you should give back all of that money?
So first, my expectation is my profit from FTX, just to be as transparent as possible, is probably somewhere around 225K. It's supposed to be closer to 300, but they never paid me the last payment. So I'm probably somewhere right around 220. I need to fact check that, but we're close to somewhere around that. Ultimately, I agree with you. I think that there needs to be there needs to be a lot more diligence in when sponsorships are made with creators.
Yeah, because you guys are dealing with finances. This isn't a NordVPN ad where if things go wrong, something happens. This is like if something goes wrong, people's entire livelihoods are at stake. And for better or for worse, you guys are seen as the experts. And so you guys are held to that expert standard. It's like if a doctor recommended a pill that doesn't work and gives you gives you cancer or something.
The suppose it's also relevant to what people individually say, right? Because individually, I've always said, look, crypto is extremely speculative, and that it should represent a tiny portion of your portfolio, if anything at all. On top of that, it's also incumbent upon the individual to take some responsibility that we know not your keys, not your crypto. That's been made abundantly clear. Even with these bank failures, I believe that ultimately depositors deserve some form of a haircut, because ultimately they choose. Now, if I say, hey, go to Silicon Valley Bank and get a loan, and you're like, hey, I get a loan here, I get all these benefits, ultimately you take that risk. So it is incumbent upon the individual to take responsibility as well. Yes, a doctor can refer you, hey, maybe this medicine will work.
But the individuals aren't the experts. That's the whole problem, is they rely on experts to help them make this decision. They don't have the luxury of spending all day looking at finance and stuff like this. So they rely on people to make their decisions for better or worse. And then when things go wrong, ultimately people are going to look to the experts in the room and say, hey, what happened? And if the answer is, well, we just didn't do enough due diligence, sorry, that's kind of a problem. So I think that's where their questions about like giving back all the money come from. Have you spoken to anybody about just giving back the money to the people affected?
Once all the cards are settled, or all the dust is settled, so to speak, and everybody gets whatever money is left back, whatever deposits are left, I'm a big fan of contributing to some sort of recovery fund when it's all over.
I don't know any of these YouTubers well, like I said, like I previously stated. But I will admit what he just said there. It sounded like a PR move. I will contribute to a recovery fund. It's not directly stating that he will give all the money he's received back, or he didn't exactly state exactly all the money he received, which he doesn't need to. But if this was to, people were mad at him and this was to help his image, I think it would have been better to state the money he received in full. He would give it to a fund, instead of basically saying he would contribute to it. Because I don't know. Maybe his contribution will be the same amount of more of what he got. But when people usually say that they're going to put something into it, it's like you didn't give anybody any clarity or sense of relief. Because I could lose thousands of dollars and you could contribute $1,000. It's not taking into account every single person who watched your video decided to basically finance with FTX and lose their money, because that $1,000 is not going to help everybody. Just a thought.
Not because I feel responsible. I do not feel responsible, but because I feel sorry for people who, quite frankly, lost money because they either didn't listen to the advice of not your keys, not your crypto, or they put too much of their own portfolio on.
Exactly what I was. I just, no, that's terrible, I'm sorry. This is emotion talking. And emotion always says it's not a good idea to do that. he's speaking logically and it's the truth. There were things and stuff online basically deterring people from banking with crypto. Okay, sorry, back. What I was saying was with like banking with crypto and stuff like that. It's not normal people or people who see you have more than them want to try to get to where you're at. If you have millions of dollars and then you're especially an investor or someone who's made money investing, giving advice like that, people are going to listen to you because they're hoping they can get more and live a better life with that money. But what he just said there was basically what nobody wants to hear. It's not wrong, it's logical speak. It's PR speak as well. But telling people who've most likely lost a lot of money that you don't feel bad, they should have looked at this stuff before investing and taking my advice, which the people who got who spent the money or invested would probably go back and be like, I listened to all your advice on your investment videos, now I should listen to none of it. It brings the issue with they trust you. It's the emotion talking. Like I said, it's emotion. Emotion is its own thing. You have to balance it. But for you right now, because he is in legal troubles right now, like all the other YouTubers, he's legal speaking. Which, at this point, I think he probably shouldn't have agreed to talk to Coffeezilla. Because I can only see this going poorly, because there's going to be people who are like, you are basically cussing them out, saying they don't agree, they don't like what he said. I lost money, like I said, or anything like that, because emotion, when it talks, it's strong. It's literally you being, like, feeling like you're crushed and like you trusted somebody. Never, it's like, it's why there's issues. If you're a logical person talking to someone who is very emotional, it doesn't click. Because it comes off as you being robotic. That was robot speak to some people. That's all I'm saying. It's not good. It didn't go well. I don't think that message he just gave off is going to make people happy.
If I go onto a gambling website because somebody says, hey, go gamble here, you'll make a lot of money, and I lose money, that's on me. And I want to be clear, too. I invested in BlockFi thinking this was going to be a great investment. I put $420,000 into BlockFi. I lost every dime of that because the company went bankrupt. Now, did I blame Anthony Pompliano for making the recommendation or suggesting, hey, you could invest with my fund into BlockFi? Absolutely not.
Exactly what I was saying. Yes and no. He invested because he trusted the dude's word and thought it would be a good investment. It wasn't. But you heard what he said. Not a lot of people have $400,000 or anything close to that amount to be like, well, hey, I trusted his word. It was my choice. It was my fault. Oh well. That $4,000 could be someone's entire life savings that they basically poured into something through your words, in hope pretty much it will work out and they can basically I'm at a loss for words. This is all PR speak he's doing. It's not great, but I know what he's doing from someone who was going to go into law school. From what I had to learn before I was going to go into it, it's a lot of PR speak. And that's what he's doing. He's trying to basically he's not admitting to no faults, which with that robotic speak, he is pointing out the fact that yes, he said this, but there was stuff saying it could go wrong. So it's like it's bad. Again, no one's going to be happy with this. There's going to be some people who do agree, though. And like I said, I see where he's going with it. And it's not wrong. It's just going to make people's emotions riled up.
Because I'm a big boy and I take personal responsibility. So I want to be very clear, just because I suggest that, hey, there should be, and I'm happy to work with this, some form of like basically a charity. Let's be clear, that's what it is. It's not taking responsibility, because ultimately I don't think any influencer has to take responsibility for what somebody does with product advice. That responsibility should only arise if somebody actually hires somebody, like retaining an attorney, hiring a doctor for their own personal situation, or hiring a personal financial advisor. Otherwise, from there, it's a lesson to the whole community. We've got to be more careful with sponsors, and the viewers have to be, diligent about their own decisions.
Well, there you go, guys. Those are the thoughts of Meet Kevin, and I want to thank him for coming on. And maybe one day he'll start that charity he's talking about. Maybe not. But until then, I just want you to understand something the next time you're thinking of trusting a financial influencer. These promotional deals, how they work with things like FTX, is that there's a code associated with it that tracks sales. For example, you might have heard of somebody saying, hey, use code Coffeezilla, or, they have some link, right? So FTX can see how many people signed up with Kevin's link or Shaq's link. And you know who takes responsibility when it's time to make money? The influencer. They take responsibility for you joining their platform. That's how FTX grew. They paid all these people who wanted to be responsible for bringing you in. But you know what happens when things go wrong? Suddenly, they're not responsible. You did it. It's on you. Isn't that a convenient switch up of who brought you in? At first it was them, and then you brought yourself in. You got to take responsibility for your own actions. And
I should have just held off on and let him talk. That literally was clear cut, well said what he said there. At that moment, like I said, he was PR talking. It was, I gave the advice, there was stuff showing that it could be wrong. You took the advice. They profited. I profited from it. It's not my fault.
Don't think this is really working for people anymore. I think it really just benefits the influencers and the financial companies, but hardly anyone else. It's bad for regular people, and I think there just really needs to be new rules in place about financial experts in the modern era. But hey, that's just my opinion. Hashtag not financial advice. Sued.
Alright, thank you guys for watching that. I enjoyed this a lot. I had a lot to say near the end. I apologize for that. It's just if you've ever taken a class on it, or even basically, the best way to see it, I would say, is if you have Twitter. I don't have it. But being on Twitter or seeing what some people post, you see that in action constantly. The PR speak of, oh, I insulted this person. Well, I did not mean to assault this person. What I said was this and this. They took it the wrong way. That was not my fault. It's like, it's that skirting the line and taking no responsibility of the people you hurt. That's what that is. It's like, I don't see the problem. It's a robotic answer to it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll see you guys again later.